Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar, ProcessMaker 4 Updates. In this webinar, we're going to show you the latest features, functionality, and solutions with two of the masterminds behind ProcessMaker 4, and they are Taylor Dondich, Chief Technology Officer at ProcessMaker, and Jose Maldonado, Director of Solution Engineering at ProcessMaker. Taylor, take it away.
Hey everybody, so first off, really happy to be here. As Matt mentioned, I am the Chief Technical Officer here at ProcessMaker. I'm also the #1 cheerleader here. I've been so excited to see our team ramping up efforts in ProcessMaker 4's development. But I do want to mention, just before we go into all the latest and greatest stuff that's in ProcessMaker 4, just kind of the elephant in the room. We are definitely living in unprecedented times. We do have a bit of a global pandemic happening here, and it has restricted the way that we have interacted with people around the world. Organizations, businesses, schools are having trouble having direct face-to-face contact with people and communication and getting things done. And it has radically transformed the way that organizations have had to rethink the way that they do business. It's been very important. You hear the term digital transformation, but it's so much more important now than ever in regards to how to radically transform the way that we interact with our customers, with students, with individuals on a day-to-day basis. And I'm really proud of the work that ProcessMaker has done in enabling organizations to adapt to the way that we have to operate in today's new world. I want to kind of share an example of that. So at ProcessMaker, we built a product called C19 Report. You can go to c19report.com. This is a project that we worked on from our hearts that allows us to do global tracking of individuals who may have or experience COVID-19 symptoms. And it allows us to give them daily updates and notifications in regards to tracking their health, and also acts as a data point for researchers and scientists around the world on just having another data point to help with the research of COVID-19, its spread, and eventually having it under control. Now, this is something that is powered by ProcessMaker 4 on the back end. It does ask you for some general information about yourself, your health, what symptoms you may be experiencing, and on a day-to-day basis allows you to track how the COVID-19 is progressing, if your symptoms are improving or are getting a little bit worse, provide some assistance in basically improving your health, and then again acts as a data point for researchers around the world. So I'm very happy about it. I love these types of passion projects, and it does give us an ability to help out. This has been so far so effective that one of our customers, one of our larger customers, is actually using the same technology to help track COVID-19 symptoms across their entire employee base so that they can, again, help manage their employees' health and ensure that they're doing their part in controlling the spread. So I really just want to say, it is kind of a bit of a difficult time, but here at ProcessMaker, we are helping organizations to get through it. So again, C19 Report, take a look at it, and please help out with this effort. Okay, let's talk a little bit about ProcessMaker 4. The last webinar we did with ProcessMaker 4, we just released it. It was the latest and greatest, and we were really excited about it, but there's been a lot of improvements since then. I'm happy to announce that we just released ProcessMaker 4.07. This was released earlier this week. Since our first webinar, there's been a lot of improvements. And this is all based off of feedback of customers who are utilizing ProcessMaker 4 in their organization and says, here's how we can make things even better. So really briefly, I know that Jose's got a wonderful walkthrough of some of the most pleasing features to kind of demonstrate, but I'll go over some of the highlights here, and then I'll hand it off to Jose in just a moment. So we do know that we have the screen builder, which allows drag and drop functionality to build complex user interfaces or forms to allow for user input. And we've listened to the feedback on making these controls even more powerful. So for example, we do have complex looping controls. So if you needed to repeat the same section of a screen over and over again, maybe based off of a collection of data that's already in the request, we have looping controls in there for you to finally manage looping and be able to have that type of functionality. And on top of that, we have nested screens. So if you have, tens to hundreds of screens and they're all dependent on kind of the same kind of controls or same inputs, you can actually define a screen and then use that as a dependency and nest that into any screen that might use that. What's great about this is that if you modify that dependency screen, those changes will be reflected in all screens which nest that screen. So this really allows you to reuse that screen as a component. In the process modeler, we've listened to a lot of feedback there. You're going to see a lot of visual improvements in the process modeler. For example, you can change the color of various elements, have tighter control over the alignment of the visual alignment, and we also continue to improve the configuration capabilities of each control that you drag over. In the screen designer, we've also made some additional UI improvements. We've improved the Watcher UI to make it more user-friendly, and also some additional tools such as richer CSS syntax highlighting and such. For processes and specifically sub-processes, we included additional configuration for when you start the process, basically assignment, who does that process run on as, things like that. Another big improvement is around our file management. So we do know that you can upload files into certain requests, but now we've even improved it so that you can add metadata to files attached and view these files independently. And also, we've included comments or discussions into the audit log for requests. So you can go into any request, take a look at its activity log, and be able to have a conversations in there with anyone involved in that request. And then also, I love visual elements. I love visual improvements. We have really good charting controls now available for saved searches. So you can have dashboard functionality. So you can take a look visually on how your data is designed. And then also you can embed these charts into screens as well. This is another example of how we've designed ProcessMaker 4 to have reusable components that can be nested in various places. And then we also have versioning improvements. So we do know that processes contain the process map, scripts, screens, and we want to make sure that we have tighter versioning control around all of these nested elements so that you can keep track of which versions are active or inactive. And so we've added some additional improvements to versioning so that you can have information on what changed, who was the person who made modifications to that version. So there's a lot of great stuff in ProcessMaker 4 currently. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Jose so that he can kind of walk through the highlights and give you a demo. Jose?
All right, super excited to get started. As some of you know, I'm Jose Maldonado. I lead solutions engineering here at ProcessMaker. And yeah, very, very excited in showing you all some of the interesting features and goodies that we've been very busy packing our product with since our initial release back in January. Now there's tons of stuff that I want to get through that we're very excited to show. And I know time is short, so forgive me if I sometimes seem like I'm just zooming past so much, but I just want to make sure that there's a chance for me to go by as much content as possible, appreciating just the time restrictions. And of course, we can have then follow-up sessions with any of you if you're interested in exploring some of these concepts in a deeper level. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in here into any of my admin accounts of any of my demo instances, and just want to put together a quick example that'll serve as backdrop for me to highlight a few of the new things that we've put into our product after launch. So if you're familiar with ProcessMaker's interface, you recognize that a lot is going on here. But never mind this particular interface. I want to switch into the designer module where we put together the different workflows and processes, because we have improvements for all the different stakeholder roles in ProcessMaker. I'm going to start with some of the features for process designers, so people who get to build these and map them out. So let's just start with, I'm going to go ahead and create a new process. Let's just start fresh. Let's imagine a very simple process, a general request for approval, maybe a claims report or a ticketing system. So I'm just going to put a ticket review process, or let's just call it a general ticket review. It's going to be our sample process. We can categorize it and so on. Now, of course, up until this point, this has been very similar to our past experience, but I'm going to try and make a point of some of the new things that you'll start appreciating. So let's just imagine a most simple process. It starts, and right off the bat, you can see that we have different types of start events. Basically, we've got new timers and single starts and measured starts and new ways to react to external triggers, both from external sources or within ProcessMaker from other processes. But right now, we're going to keep it super simple. Let's just have a regular start followed by a couple of tasks. So let me just plop in here 2 tasks real quick. The first task is just, let's just say it's going to be submit the ticket. And task number 2 is going to be review the ticket. Review the ticket, okay. And then we probably want to capture a response for that review. Now this is straight up very basic process modeling, so that most of you will be familiar, but if not, you'll appreciate just how easy it is in ProcessMaker anyway to plop down any design that makes any sort of sense. Now, some interesting new features right off the bat that we can start seeing. You'll notice that we have some alignment controls to keep our designs in order. Now, this is a super simple design, but you can imagine as your designs start growing in complexity, how you want to keep everything in control. So for instance, we can multi-select using Shift, click. I'm going to select these 2 end events. I want to maybe align them to the right, or maybe I want to select all this row of elements and align them to the top. So you'll see how right off the bat, we've got some better controls of keeping track of our design. All right, so what does this look like? Basically, someone will start an event, submit a request, someone will review that request or that ticket, and will capture a response. Now, of course, this will start making sense once we add some logic into this. Now, from a pure process modeling perspective, another cool feature that we're introducing, or that we have introduced in the past few months, is the possibility to check flows to validate whether flows don't have any unreachable elements or any potential scenarios where it might spiral out of control. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on check flow to see what's going to happen. And you'll notice that it's just going to run through some potential routing options to make sure that the flow is always complete and consistent through each of the runs. And you'll notice it executed 3 times. Of course, one for each end event, but then there's an additional flow that did not complete. So we have a warning here because, of course, I'm just starting out and to put here a gateway that's really not leading to anywhere. And we could certainly imagine scenarios where if I'm not properly defining the conditions, then there might be a potential for a condition that is not accommodated by any of these 2 possibilities. So that's why it's letting me know if you leave it as is, you might have some inconsistencies down the road. So a quick way to fix that is by selecting any of my gateways and setting it as the default flow. That way, if the gateway does not map into an explicit condition, at least the flow will know how to manage those scenarios. So now if I check the flow, notice that we only have 2 potentially successful scenarios. So right off the bat, the possibility to check flows, we keep everything nice and tight is one of the cool features that we've got in there. Now, of course, this is just evaluating this from a process modeling perspective. But what happens at each of these tasks, most of you know, it's driven through the different assets of our screen tasks or form tasks, which in these cases are the actual screens. So let me just switch into here, which basically what I'm saying is what should happen when we reach any of these tasks. So let me go open here our screen library, and I think somewhere over here, let me just go through. I have a generic ticket screen that might be useful for this example. I just put this together beforehand so we don't waste too much time just dropping some fields into our screen design. But if you're not familiar with our screen builder, it's a drag and drop interface where we have all these sets of controls that we can just drag and plop and put together into our design, and it's pretty straightforward. Now, right off the bat, let's see what this looks like. We've got a nice title here, and just asking for, 3 fields, basically a subject, outline, some details, a category dropdown, and a file attachment. And we have a read-only field here that's capturing the requester name. This is also, mind you, powered by a new feature of default values. So over here, of course, you'll remember that for any field that we have selected, we can customize its properties at our right-hand pane over here. So down over here in advanced, we have the opportunity to define default values for any request. So in this example, we're using a very interesting feature that we call magic variables that basically can pre-populate forms with existing information. So in this example, I'm using user.fullname, which is going to pre-populate once an actual user fires off this request or this workflow. It's going to pre-populate from whatever information we have in the system for them with their full name. So the opportunity of adding default values is also extremely useful, and you'll notice that we can even add, JavaScript-based values for those power users who want to really go crazy with, I don't know, default calculations or rules. Even though we have dedicated sections for that as calculated properties, sometimes you just want to punch in the actual formula for a field directly on the field and its properties. So default value is the place to do it. Now in this example, I'm just using a very simple variable name, magic variable name that's underscore user full name. So we can pre-populate that. Now all that I'm mentioning is fully documented in our open documentation page, which is accessible right here, actually here in documentation link under the avatar icon at the top right. All right, so I think this screen is good enough. Then just to make some quick changes so we know that this is the one that we're actually using. So let's just change this to a nice little, I don't know, nice little purple title color. And another thing that I want to show, notice this is a text area. I'm going to go ahead and change this particular configuration into a rich text area. Oh, sorry for the super zoom, but in case you missed where I'm clicking. What this allows is, notice that now when we preview the form, this is actually going to render a rich text box. So this allows us to capture just rich text during our form input. This is going to capture straight up HTML. So this is my form data. Notice that now it's it's going to be rendering this as straight up HTML, which can be super useful for multiple reasons. But right now it's just, an opportunity to capture rich data and use it anywhere it makes sense in our designs. All right, so this form, this screen is perfectly adequate for this purpose. I'm just going to go ahead and save that. And now you'll notice another nice feature, which is the capability of keeping versions. Now, versioning has been baked into our platform since day one, but now we made it super obvious in our UI how to keep control and find past versions. So since we made some changes, we're just going to call this the webinar ticket version, and added rich text controls, etc. And this is just so we can come back, and this will allow us afterwards, if we wanted to, just review different versions, and maybe we want to set a different version as the one that's active, that's the one that's actually going to be rendered during these executions and so on. All right, so this form is perfectly adequate. Now we want to make another version of this same form, but for the reviewer. So for those familiar with ProcessMaker will appreciate that one of the easiest way to do that. Let me just come back here. Let's sort by our most recently modified. Here's our generic ticket. One of our quickest ways to do that is I'm going to clone this screen, generic ticket, and I'm going to call it generic ticket review. And this will allow me to create a version of this same form, but specific for our manager. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And here's our generic ticket review. So now let's open that. And of course, it's an exact copy of what we were just seeing. So let's say that this time, we want to make the other fields read-only as well. It's a very easy toggle over here. So let's just say that subject and details are also going to be read-only. And here we have the opportunity. Of course, the original was to attach a file. Now I want to replace this with a way to find this document. So this taps into another concept that is a much more robust way to manage documents in ProcessMaker. So let's talk a little bit about that. So now we've got different options. Sure, we always have the opportunity to download files. So I could just replace the upload control, which is the original one, with the download control, and this would allow the manager to click and download whatever was uploaded. But we also have a new control called the file preview, which will actually allow us to preview the file in form without the need to download it. This will apply for, of course, images, documents like PDF documents, and the like. So all we need to do is, of course, we know that the variable name of the file is my file in this example. So I'm just going to add that variable in our file preview. And now we don't need the upload control because we don't need the manager to be uploading anything. Actually, just for kicks, let me just add a multi-column. Let's add the file preview here at the right. And then let me add a checkbox here at the left. And let's just call it preview file. This is my variable. And here, just, select this to preview file. Let's just change the config to a toggle design. And now we can actually just toggle whether we want that preview file, that file preview to expand or not. And the way to do it is we're just going to use this variable name, which is the variable of the checkbox, as the visibility rule, meaning that when the preview file checkbox is true, then the file preview will display, and it will hide otherwise. We can test it real quick here. Notice that here we have our nice little select this to preview. And when I click it, you can see that on the multi-column, or on this column in front of it rather, we can see how that file preview is displaying. Now, of course, when we actually execute this as part of a process, it'll make that much more sense. All right. And of course, all these files will become part of the doc management piece for each workflow request, which is something that we can take a look in a few minutes. So all that we need now is a quick way to capture a response. We already have a submit button. I'm just going to add a new button over here. Let's just put some quick columns and put our two buttons here. Now we're going to replace this one with a rejection button and this one with an approval button. Okay, reject, approve. Now a nice little hack that we like to use, I'm just going to show it to you, is to modify the button's visibility through custom CSS. Just taking advantage of the CSS editing capabilities of our screens. So if anyone familiar with CSS and HTML design can really have fun with this. So for instance, I'm just going to say that all my buttons, I want them, to have maybe a full width. And notice that's complete, it's autocomplete, so it's super easy, percentage. And notice that as soon as I complete this, our buttons down here are updated to reflect it in real time. And all that they're doing is just, since we set the width to 100, it's occupying the entirety of our column, which makes them just that much more pleasing to our aesthetics. Maybe one more change we wanted to, well, no, this is good enough. So now, of course, when we preview, we can see the buttons occupying the entirety of the screen. And of course, it's a bootstrap responsive control, so it'll accommodate and render nicely, regardless of the device and screen size and whatnot. All right, now of course you don't need to use CSS to customize the look. This is just a nice little hack for showing the CSS customizations, but you can certainly just use the default design options. For instance, we want to change part of the variant styles. These are defined at the UI level that we can see in a few minutes. So for instance, if this is a rejection, I change to the danger color scheme. Notice it's going to show red. Maybe the approval button, we choose the success variant, which is green. So this will preview rather nicely. So this is a pretty decent review screen. So let me just go ahead and save that. Now, of course, we could also name this version, but let's just be quick. Okay, so we've got a general ticket submission and a review forms. Let's just go back to our process that we created a few minutes ago and add those screens in here real quick. So I'm just going to come here to the submit ticket task. Notice that it's asking a screen for input. So let's just find that ticket. And what did I call it? Generic ticket. Here it is. And similarly, the review. Let's just look for the generic ticket review. All right. So we've got those two screens. Finally, just to keep it in check, let's just assign this to, who can participate or perform this task. Let's say it is the requester, but the reviewer, so anyone can submit these tickets, but the reviewer, let's just say it's going to be an actual user. We have different assignment options. For now, let's just say that's going to be a particular user. What do I have here? Let's just say it's going to be Manny the manager. And of course, we could allow reassignment, have him, say who else should take a look at this. We can lock these assignments. We've got a lot of also just richness on that. Let me just add a notification so that the assignee knows that they need to take a look at that. And also notice here we have a comments section, an entirely new section that allows commentings to these tasks. Just go ahead and fire these off. And this is going to allow us to collaborators to just have conversations around these tickets outside of whatever information we're actually making part of the screen design. So that's pretty useful. Let's see that in a second. Now, of course, for this to run, let me just be real quick, but we don't necessarily have to do this. Remember that, I don't even know if we added some values here, probably not. See, we don't have any variables, just call this variable approval. And the value is going to be yes. Actually, approval, yes. And this one, wait, this is the rejection button. Approval, no. And then here it's going to be the same approval variable, but with a no value. All right, so let me go ahead and save that. What this means is that the form is going to capture that variable with their respective value, depending on which button you click to submit the form. So we can come back here to our design and add that expression here. So here, just we're going to call this, so let's just call the gateway manager response. And let's just click one end event is going to be deny or manager denied. And this is when approval is no. Let me copy this real quick. And the opposing sequence is going to be manager approved. And this is when the value is yes. And these values are going to be captured based on those buttons. Okay, so now this is a fully functional example. Just go ahead and save that. We can add different versions, as I mentioned. Okay, so now let's just take 1 second and run through this to see what it looks like. So we're already past the 20-minute mark. And we don't have much time, and we're just scratching the surface because we haven't really seen some of those goodies. So I'm going to go ahead and open this on a Incognito tab. This is going to allow us to log in as another user, keep track of what that's looking like. So I'm just log in here as any employee. Let's give that a shot real quick. All right. Now, first thing that you might notice is how the top navigation section is actually different. You notice here in the back for our admin, we've got sections specific for the admin, like designer and admin capabilities. Here instead, we've got sections for the end user, like their to-do lists or access to their public files, because now part of our customization options allow to create not just different color schemes, but custom menu sections and dashboards and so on, to really make the experience completely targeted to whatever either user or group is participating. For now, let's just come back here and find that generic ticket process that we just put together. Let me try that again. Okay, here it is. Oh, it's general. That's why I'm not finding it. General ticket review. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click and start. And notice here we have that submit ticket that we just saw. And welcome to our ticketing system. So let me just, put any sort of example here. I have this claim. I don't know what categories. Let's say it's a hardware issue. So let's say that my laptop is freezing and acting weird. All right, notice that it's rich text, so we can really customize whatever message we want. It's a hardware issue, as I mentioned. We can attach a file. Let me just attach a file here real quick. Let me look in my machine. Hardware issue, select file, and a little, here's a little photo that I took at my laptop acting all weird. Let me just put this back in. We can see the progress. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send that. Now when I do, this is going to notify my manager, right? So let me just use this other session here to log in as the manager, and we can see what that's going to look like. All right. Notice that the manager, we set the notification. We're going to go ahead and review that ticket. And you can see here that we can see the information. Of course, the requester is Ernie employee. You didn't have to type that in. You can see the rich text. We can see those read-only conditions that we set. And here's, select to preview this file. Notice that when we click on that, we have the opportunity to preview that. And of course, in this case, it's an image, so we just get a straight version of that. So it's pretty cool. We don't need to download it. And the same thing can happen with our documents. And we can just run through a couple examples to see it. I can also reassign. Maybe we consider, we are not the ones who should be looking at this. So we could just come here and see if we wanted to bring another user into play. But also remember those commenting discussions that we had. So here we have that comment section. And what's interesting is we used to have some designs where you had a third button that was just reject, approve, and maybe send back for comments. And then you had to sort of tie in the comment captured section within your form. And that really didn't make any sense because now we made it part of a platform. So maybe if we have some questions, we shouldn't route the entire process back. In fact, you remember we don't have that route as part of our design, but instead we can just ask directly. So, what is this about? And we can actually ping the target. So if we wanted to notify Ernie, we can just name him and say, I don't understand what is wrong. So now that when I send this, it becomes part of the contextual information of my request. And of course, you remember we have the opportunity to comment, to add emojis, to add voting. And now let's come back here to our other session. And notice here we've got a notification with that comment. So now we have this sort of back and forth conversation that is separate from actually filling and submitting. Yeah, it's frozen. And we could even link to other requests. of course, like, and here we can add maybe a different, I'm just going to add, I don't know, forgive me. So 554 is another request, which I don't even know what it is, but let's just click on it to see. So notice it's opening the request detail of something else, which allows us to also tie in different requests. Maybe we had a past request and we say, yeah, remember that other case? It's something similar to that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and send this. And this will allow us the opportunity to actually just keep things moving along. Okay, so this example was pretty straightforward because of course it only has like two tasks. Let's do one final edit to this real quick. So let me just come back as the admin. Actually, I think, well, just come back as the admin. Of course, I'm going to refresh because it's a different session now. Now, let's say we wanted to add another very interesting feature, which is save searches and charts. So now we have the opportunity to create dashboards and charts out of all the information in ProcessMaker. And actually, let me just show it to you real quick. Hold on. Yeah, so in this example, here we're seeing just information across different requests that's capturing, different values. This is just an example of different sports results for a team for different reasons, for each year, how many wins, losses, draws, and win percentage. You can easily imagine if this is either captured directly on a form or calculated elsewhere. The point is we can now use this information to drive some charts. So in this example, of course, out of that table, we have all sorts of just analytics, super easy to configure, and they're all just put together a very user-friendly way to accommodate and create our different charting ideas. So in order to see this in action, of course, those charts we can then use in multiple places and summary screens and whatnot. But more interestingly, we can also use them in our forms. Let me just tuck this back out of the way. And where are we? So you notice here we have a safe search chart. Let's say that we wanted to include as part of our screen a quick little summary chart on what past ticket submissions or ongoing ticket submissions also look like, might help inform the manager on its course of action, which would be pretty interesting. So in order for that to work, we're just going to have to edit an existing safe search since I just created this process. It doesn't really have any safe searches attached to it. So for that to work, I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to pick any of these existing ones, but let me just edit it so that it applies to the specific process that we just created. So give me one sec. So we just replace this with our general ticket review. Okay, so now when we come and see it, we'll notice, well, here's the ticket review that we just submitted with the hardware issue. So now let's create a quick chart. Of course, there's only one, but as we start firing off, so let me just be real quick. So let's say we want requests by, or let's put it tickets by category and result. It's a vertical. Let's just say the first one is the category and group by approval. Count them, and you'll notice, there's tons of ways that we can sort these by dates or values, maybe have some metrics that add or capture averages or sums. Since these are text categories here, the only metric I have is count, but it's a quick way to put together all sorts of interesting data. Let me just pick any of these and let's check that out. So here, of course, we only have one that is a hardware issue and no, but hopefully if we start, feeding additional examples, this is going to update to reflect that. So now we have a requests by status search for this. So now let me come back to our screen and just preview this because it's been open here for a while. And I'm going to add a safe search here. And now we're going to pick that requests. Where is it? Tickets by category. That's what we call it. Okay, so here it is. And then we can put, you know, oh, let's just leave it that. Display, we can, you know, maybe put it a little smaller. What's that going to look like? We can, I think we can afford leaving it the standard size just for this example. Okay. All right. So now let's see what that will, let me just customize this. I'm going to add a multi-column, plop this in here. Sorry. And then let's just put these things in there so that it's, yeah, I like this. All right. So let's save this. All right. So now let's fire off a couple of different examples and see what that looks like. So, well, no, let me just start a couple of different requests. General ticket review. So this is going to be another, let's pick the same category, hardware, and let's just send it right there. And now let's come back here as the manager. Notice we've got the new ticket request. And notice now, of course, one does not have a response because it's this one that's ongoing, but we have our previous one. So now, you know, if we just go ahead and reject, oh, wait. If we just go ahead and reject that, and then let's do one more. With a different category. Notice how here the review ticket. So notice how we're feeding intelligence directly into this. And of course, this you can publish this in a web entry and put it in your portals, etc. So it's a great way to just, you know, bring that contextual information of what's going on into your process. And of course, we can always just, you know, keep the commenting going. To that point, if we come back to our requests, let's see the requests that have finished in the few. Here's the couple of general tickets that we just submitted. Notice now in this last example, when we're reviewing the summary of what happened, we get the log of how each user has submitted these tasks. So earning employee completed the submit, and then notice that these comments that we're weaving into them are becoming part of that log. So we get very informative information. That's redundant. Very key pieces of information of both comments as they are provided with the actual, you know, log trace of what the system is understanding what's going on. So it's a great way to just stay on top of all the things that are happening. And notice here at the file manager, we can see that document that was provided. And of course we can share it. We can add comments specifically to this file. We could just bring it into our machine and just keep on manipulating it. So let me pause here because I know I'm just scratching the surface and there's so much we want to talk about and so much I haven't really gotten into, but I'm just going to hold there so we can, but let me recap. We've got great features for our designers like better flow control, better alignment tools, great features for our participants or interaction, great features for users who interact with these processes, like commenting and file management, and a better form and robust control. And of course, we've got tons of just analytical information in the form of charting and reporting. Of course, this is a very simple example. So better charting and better reporting. And I know we're just scratching the surface, but yeah, it's been super fun to share these. And I'm going to pause, send it back to Taylor so he could tell us a little bit more about what's coming up ahead.
Great, Jose. So thank you so much. I know that was a lot, and I know we didn't touch base on potentially some of the things that you're interested in. By all means, at the end of the webinar, if we don't address your questions in the detail that you want, please reach out to us so that we can get you the information you need. There is one more kind of like passion project I want to talk about first, before I talk about like kind of like what's coming up. We have ProcessMaker Automated QA. Now, this is a project that we're using internally. ProcessMaker 4 is a cloud-only deployment, right? So we do have customers who are deployed into our cloud, both our public cloud as well as private clouds of theirs, and we're constantly updating ProcessMaker 4. So in that situation, we want to make sure that upgrades go smoothly and new tenant provisioning also goes smoothly, that they are functional from the moment we deploy or we upgrade their environment. We don't want this to be a manual task by our operations teams. We want this to be as automated as possible. So we look at this as a great opportunity for, well, quote unquote, eating our own dog food, right? So we built a ProcessMaker Automated QA platform on top of ProcessMaker 4. This is covered in another video that you can find on our video section on our website. So I'm only going to go over it really briefly. Definitely take a look at that video for more detailed information. But for example, here's the workflow designed for our ProcessMaker Automated QA process. This allows us to do some fantastic things, leveraging some of the improvements that Jose went over, as well as really complex workflows to satisfy our requirements. So when we built this, I'm going to go over it real briefly. Again, a lot of the detail is in the videos in our video section. We wanted to make sure that all of our developers, including our QA team, were able to contribute tests, which are basically Selenium-based tests. These are browser-based tests, and stored in a Git repository. That way everybody can commit tests. There's version history, there's branching inside the repository. So it gives us a lot of flexibility on how we can organize our tests and have multiple contributors to said tests. And because ProcessMaker has the ability to execute scripts in a variety of languages, it's very possible to write these tests in any of the languages that we support, which is really fantastic. Our CI/CD pipeline can be fairly complex since we are in the AWS cloud currently. Our CI/CD pipeline is wrapped around various tools inside AWS, such as code deploy or Lambda functions. So what's great is our automated QA, because we have the flexibility of our workflow engine, we can actually drop this into an existing CI/CD pipeline. So the moment a tenant needs to be provisioned or upgraded, a request is fired off in ProcessMaker 4. All the tests are ran, and then based off of the results, we can either have a success or failure and then continue the deployment pipeline. And then also, because ProcessMaker 4 scales out, we can actually run massive numbers of scales, a massive amount of tests in parallelization, which is fantastic. And then based off of the results of these tests, we can do email notifications. However, because it is ProcessMaker 4 based, we are absolutely able to customize this process to fit our needs. So if we wanted to, say, notify our teams via Slack or through some other notification system, or we needed to change the way that it integrates with our deployment pipeline, we can modify it as such. Now, that is another passion project that we are utilizing internally. We also have one of our largest customers using this automated QA platform to test deployments for their deployments as well. If you are interested in this project and to see how it can potentially enable your organization to do better resiliency and reliability of your deployments, do reach out to us. I'd be excited to talk to you about it. Okay, so what's in the short-term future roadmap for ProcessMaker. You know, I've seen a couple discussions in the chat and Q&A about discussions or comments. We are adding enhanced notifications for that. So if anyone's in a discussion inside a request, we can actually notify people of that so that you can get back to your request and contribute to the conversation. You saw a little bit briefly the improvements that we've made to file management. We're adding more support to that. We're going to be adding more richer discussions and comments to files, user folder behavior. So really looking forward to that. We also know sometimes it's very frustrating if, say, for example, your process is designed poorly. I know Jose went through some of the process validation tools that we've added, but of course, we always want to improve our logging for our ops team, as well as for customers to have access to those logs so that you can do better troubleshooting in case something goes wrong. Also, collections, a very big, powerful feature of ProcessMaker 4. We're going to be improving the support for collections, including additional relational collections so that you can relate collection records to each other, things like that. And then one of the features that we're starting to design that I'm really excited about, I don't even know if I'm supposed to be talking about it, but I'm so excited I'm going to talk about it now, is streaming screens. So, you know, we've looked at interactive chatbots and interactions there, and we absolutely want to bring that functionality into ProcessMaker 4. So we're going to be designing a feature which allows you to have essentially interactive conversation models for interacting with your processes. You know, I don't want to give away too much detail there. I just kind of whet your appetite there, but stay tuned. We will be announcing this feature and giving a demo of that soon. So what I want to do now is I want to hand it back off to Matt to address any questions you might have. I know some of you have been having some questions. I'll do my best to answer them. If I can't answer them, of course, like I said, you can. We'll follow up with you on email. Matt, go ahead.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. I'm going to go through some questions here. If we don't get to you today, feel free to email marketing@processmaker.com and we'll get an answer for you. So the first question is ProcessMaker API enabled? Can it be integrated with a custom mobile app?
Great question. So absolutely, everything that you see in the walkthrough is API based. So we have really rich API documentation for every ProcessMaker 4 installation. You have access to the API documentation, but everything from collections to comments to discussions, even how the process modeler functions, it's all backed by a rich API. So you can absolutely develop external applications, whether that's a mobile application or your own portal, and have it interact with ProcessMaker 4 directly. This gives you full functionality in regards to building out your own custom interfaces outside of ProcessMaker 4, but still leverage the entire power of the ProcessMaker 4 system.
Awesome. The next question is, can we export chart data to external BI systems?
So because, as I mentioned with the previous answer, everything is API driven, even chart data is driven. So if you have been following along with ProcessMaker 4, you understand the functionality of Safe Search. Safe Search uses our own proprietary query language. It's ProcessMaker query language. That query language syntax is available in our documentation. But you can use PMQL to pull out the metrics which charts use. Now, you can do that through an API, which means that your BI tool can ad hoc go ahead and push that, pull that information out of the ProcessMaker system through an API. So absolutely.
Awesome. The next question, I believe, has to do with the form builder, screen builder. And the question is there a grid feature on the layout?
You know, I saw that question. That was asked when we were showing the process modeler. So you might have seen a small grid in the process designer. Now, Snap to Grid is automatically enabled. We are looking at adding additional controls so you can change the grid size. But first, we wanted to obviously include those alignment controls because we recognize that people really wanted to align elements along the same line or per vertical or horizontal. So we wanted to approach that first, but we will be looking at additional grid controls in a future release.
All right, the next question is about permissions related to the comment functionality. And the question is, what kind of permissions must be configured to make use of comments?
Okay, great question. So obviously, if you are involved in the request at all, you'll have the ability to look at the comments and join in on the discussion. We have a very rich permission model, and just like all the permissions in ProcessMaker 4, there is a process level permission system where you can look at those permissions related to commenting.
All right. The next question is, can ProcessMaker 4 be installed on premise?
Okay, so we did mention that ProcessMaker 4 is a cloud-only deployment. However, we do recognize in certain regions or certain organizations might have certain data policies. So we also offer a hybrid model where we are able to tap into an on-site database to actually store request data. So all of the actual request data, all the user data and such is stored on-site on your local database system. However, all the metadata for ProcessMaker 4 to function and operate is still stored in our cloud system. We can absolutely deploy our system in a private cloud, which is a cloud closer to you and only available to you. So there's a lot of options there. What I would suggest is contact our sales team to identify what's the best scenario for you.
Okay, we have a lot of questions here, so we'll try and get a few more. The first one is about comments. Is it possible to define if it's required or not?
So absolutely, like I said, with permissions, you can absolutely restrict the functionality, the comments and such. So again, take a look at the permission system. If you do want to contact our marketing team in regards to a link to the documentation regarding that, we'll make sure that you get it. That way you can see the full control of permissions and its functionality.
Okay, and then the last question I have is about, we are on 3.4 currently. How substantial is the upgrade process to get to 4?
Great question. It's something that a lot of our customers are looking into. So ProcessMaker 4, as you've recognized through our initial intro webinar, and this webinar is a completely different beast. It's a lot of functionality, a lot of new functionality that isn't in ProcessMaker 3, as well as changes to behavior that might be in ProcessMaker 3. So what we are doing already is developing a set of migration tools internally to assist in customer migrations. And that's going to solve about 80% of the migration. There are going to be certain things that aren't just possible to migrate over automatically. So those types of scenarios we'll have to look at on a case-by-case basis. What I would say is go ahead and contact your customer success representative to start the conversation about migrations. That way we can start to keep you in the loop in regards to the progress of those migration tools and how they can help facilitate your upgrade.
Okay, thanks, Taylor. And thank you, Jose, and everyone who attended today's webinar. There are quite a few more questions, so feel free to email those to marketing@processmaker.com. And then just one more announcement. We'll be having a BPMN advanced webinar a week from today, same day and time. So feel free to sign up for that on our website. And thank you for attending.